morning, everyone. I'm talking in the name of Osa, the court CEO and principal designer of Samyn, which is in there. So I'm talking on her behalf. Do you hear me clearly? Okay. Osa and me are extremely happy to follow Taras because we are both students of Christopher Alexander. And we had the chance to have long discussion with Christopher when we made him honoris causa from the University of Hasselt about 12 years ago. And it is amazing because our work is the technical continuity of a pattern language. So we're basically builders interested in questioning how and what should we build now, and basically, why should we build? So I will try to, if I understand, is this working? So which button should I push? Can you? Oh yeah, exactly. So the first slide was my blason with a question mark with an arrow of determination to question further between night and day, the disorder of night, would we say, and the order of day, or the opposite. Now, we are building in a moving world. And this first graph, which I did not adapt since 5 years, summarizes the situation. 5 years ago, United Nations and the GIEC were forecasting a population of 9 billion people in 25 years from now. Well, it is not true. Population is staggering at 8 billion people. But what happened in the meantime is this extraordinary evolution, and I have to look at my graph again, the last 15 years in the production of material. In the cement production, for example, you see, can I put an arrow on the slide? No, oh, I changed it. No? Is this an arrow? No, again, sorry. I should have checked. Is there an arrow? No? Anyway, you'll see this incredible increase of cement production on the planet, which suddenly stopped about 10 years ago. And the actual production of cement is decreasing. So it's a fact. Huh? So we will have less cement on the planet in the years to come. And we also are lacking sand. So why should we continue to build so much in concrete? If we have no sand, we will have to crush concrete to spend energy to produce sand, which is a nonsense. And then if you look at the steel production, it's exactly the same trend. And it just happened that China and India, which we always forget in the global picture, because the biggest world population is India nowadays, are still responsible for large production. So we will arrive in a period of stabilization which nobody really is aware of. So we will have to, and continuity is a marvelous expression of Anton, we have to continue, but calm. So we will have to reorganize the built environment as it is. We will not build so many new stuffs in the future, and we have to concentrate on making it wise by the proper use, the proper choice of material. There is no bad material. There is only bad use of materials. Grosso modo, one-fourth of a building is the structure, one-fourth is the equipment, one-fourth is the envelope, one-fourth is the finishes. So the geometry of a building is essential in making earnings, and because money is energy and energy is money, the cost of something anywhere on the planet is a good picture of the energy, the embodied energy. And grosso modo also, we're always looking at the embodied energy for construction, the energy for operation, the energy for maintenance, but people forget the energy for cleaning. And we were quite surprised, Osa and me, when we were looking at figures, that about 1/4 of the energy in the 30-year lifespan of a building is devoted for cleaning. So it is important when we design a building to think how we can reduce the cost of cleaning. And that, as a consequence, we better use materials that like patine, natural materials. About structure, and you can go on, we discovered 15 years ago a dimensional number which is quite useful for architects and engineers, which I call the volume and displacement indicator. And if you go on Wikipedia, you take the volume and displacement indicator of an architectural structure and you have all the details. It's just a way to evaluate from the very early sketch on a sheet of paper on your computer to see if the shape you're giving is spending more energy than another one to find the optimal. This is an example of a pure simple beam, uniformly loaded, and on the vertical axis you have the amount of material, and the horizontal axis the proportion, the height on the length of the span. So you see the variety is huge. So when you're designing a simple span, you might, without realizing, spend 5 times more energy than you think, or on the opposite, if you think about it, earn 4 times more energy than you can imagine. So geometry is fundamental. And when you speak about geometry, then you immediately speak about rhythms. And you know, architecture is not art, architecture is art, but architecture is the little brother of music. In the music, and if you take in Europe, only in Europe, a pianoforte with 7 octaves and 12 notes, including the dièse, you can divide the musical space in 7 orders, 7 octaves, each divided in 2 power 1/12, because 2 power 12 is 2, and so on. Well, for architecture, we go back to Vitruvius, to the Phoenicians, to Christopher Alexander, by the way, who was also quite convinced about it, to the Pythagoras triangle, which was invented by the Chinese fast before also, 3, 4, 5. And architecture, the building environment in 3 dimensions, is ruled by the triangle 3, 4, 5. Why? Because 4 divided by 3, exponent 8 equals 10. So the octave for the builder is 10, and not 2 for the musician. But the relation is amazing. So you can always write a music for any architecture, or create an architecture for any kind of music. So among the many factors intervening, everything is interacting. It's quite difficult to look at any thought, and Taras shows it also clearly with all these examples, which will be the main defining element. So to answer to Anton's preoccupation, Ossa made a selection of some of our projects, mainly from where we started and where we went. This is our office. We bought a ruin, a magnificent location in the south part of Brussels, and it was supposed to be destroyed, and we transformed it, keeping all the materials. You see, with the signs of the time. Those are pictures of 30 years ago, and we are there in this is our office. This was when we came in, just planting small trees, and that's how it is now. So the trees have grown, and in the center, I have to look to the camera. This is in between, must have been some 10 years ago. And this in the middle, we have planted an oak tree with the age, the oak tree was born in 1977, the age of my daughter, and the age of, when we started the company. And this is also, again, I would say 7 or 8 years ago. And then that's yesterday. The water mirror is full of plants, lovely birds, insects, and fishes, and our oak is now, 50 years old. And inside, those are pictures of 30 years ago, but that's still the meeting rooms today. They have not changed at all. The studio, well, to make the pictures, we removed the computer, which is wrong, And we mixed all kind of old furniture because there is no need to buy plastic or industry furniture. There is so much furniture available on the planet, so why should you use in an office building new produced furniture? That's the EUROPA building, Council of the European Union. It's already an old product because we started 17 years ago, where we inherited from this old building, and that is what we did. So we did not destroy anything of the existing, we just removed the recent addition, and we completed it with this cube, which is a bridge, because in the meantime, a rail track was built underground the building, so we had to span the railroad, and in the middle, the lantern where you have all the meetings of the EU. And also you see the photovoltaic roof. It is now obvious to cover buildings with photovoltaics wherever on the planet, and we'll finish with a project in Oman where they are vertical for good reasons. And so on this building, the facade is done with old windows gathered all over Europe. And people were saying we were crazy. Well, we were not so crazy. There's a building. And by the way, the structure, the steel structure has been optimized with the theory of the volume indicator. And compared to another method, we were able to burn 30% of steel, which was quite important in the budget. And so, because it's a highly security building, you see the outside facade made of those old wooden windows, and then you have a 2.7 meter behind another facade. It's nearly a zero energy building, and you see the both structures in between. I have to, yeah. So what is very funny is that the drawings of the competition and the built reality, you cannot make the difference. And this is because the power of algorithm. Oh, I have to. How can I? Yeah. That's all a bit the same, but how can I move with that? I have to fix the camera. Yeah. So we used, and this is typically a Christopher Alexander approach, by the way. We use the 3-4-5 triangle, dividing a grid. By accident, the existing building had a rhythm of a ratio 2 to 3, so we divided regularly, and we created a grid on which we then would place the windows coming from all over Europe with unknown dimensions. So this is an example of how and it has been done, in 2 weeks. We have done the whole facade with a small craftsman and developed a very simple framework. And it was just stochastic. We were just getting small PDF of the windows, the company measured and gave it to us, and we just implement them in 3D. So enough for this project, I think. And also, we use the same approach, and it's so funny, Daras was speaking about Christopher, because he is in our soul as OSIME, and we're using his design approach. We are, the followers up in technology, would I say, of more human approach of Christopher Alexander. So it is the same for the lantern, which houses the main meeting rooms, where to find an algorithm to make glass panels with white lines for many reasons. By the way, if you go on our website, we have 2 books you can download which explain all the details, how we have the design strategy behind that. I have to get aware of things. And at the same time, we are not artists as architects, we're not musicians, but our best friends are certainly musicians and artists. So we regularly invite painters which are using colors, because we are not using colors. We're just using materials in their natural color or pure grays. And here, Georges Meurant, with whom we have worked a lot, I made some sketches to give him what I was looking at, and he made this beautiful color scheme, which we have used all over for doors. And the doors, for example, are made of squares of 15 centimeter squares so that we could put all the safety pictograms on them. In the lift shafts, I have to find a place. How can I go faster with that? Oh. Those are, maybe you are used to these pictures because on TV you see regularly all the heads of states in those meeting rooms. This is the main meeting room where all EU deciders and head of states are making their choices. And by the way, you see the structure, it's a quite large elliptical space, and to avoid very high expensive beams, we have understood, we have put those steel tension elements with studs behind it. And this is something we're using quite often, and you will see later on for windmills. But I don't know how I can go faster with this thing. Huh? Oh, this is another example. It's the Culture House of Namur, southern Belgium, designed by Victor Bourgeois, the founder of the School of Architecture, La Cambre, with the Bauhaus story. And he designed this cultural center. We had to extend it, to renovate it. And there was a competition, and most of our colleagues, because it was not listed, decided to destroy it. We didn't do that. We just started from the legacy of Victor Bourgeois and added the cylinder in front of it, as you see. It extended the main volume, but destroyed nothing in it, just extending it as a dialogue with Victor Bourgeois. It just happened that I have been the director of the school in a crisis period at a time where the postmodernists and the functionalists was fighting against each other to create calm and against harmony. So this is the facade we had, and that's what it became. And by the way, you will see a detail. You see, this is a fire stair, and we are developing building elements, obsessed by the cost and the way we can integrate it. Remember, with the rhythm and geometry, and we developed a very simple perforation of steel plates. That's internal innovation. I think Osa has put some slides. Again, the main hall, we started from bourgeois design, but we increased the amount of seats and asked Yves Strassen to make this fresco on the ceiling, because Bourgeois was dreaming at the time to make some fresco, but he couldn't do it at the time. I don't know how, and this is another, the rehearsal room under the cylinder. And also a very famous landscape architect called Pécher had made a marvelous garden along the river, which had disappeared. So we found back at the archives in the National Archives, the drawing and the choice of the plants of Pécher, and we decided to recreate part of the Pécher garden with the plants he was dreaming on the roof of the roof garden of the building. I don't know how. Oh, no. It's in another project, probably we'll see the details. I come back on that. Now, that's another typical transformation in Belgium under the French influence. You have a lot of those family castle and classical style. And when Segers, and you will see his factory transformed, asked us to take his house in charge, we decided to make it zero energy while respecting the initial architecture. So he has been the first client to whom we have proposed our pure gray colors. And because if you ask to the paint industry a pot of grain paint, if you don't be careful, you never get a pure gray. It's a reddish, greenish, bluish, yellowish, or whatever. Because for the industry, it was quite difficult to have pure gray. And we have produced, after years of negotiation, with Sigma Coating now absorbed by PPG in America, 20 pure grays. And now they are known as the Samyn grays, but they are just pure grays, and it was also obvious to make. And the first building, the EUROPA building is done in the pure grays. And the first building we used the pure gray was this one. And when I showed the sample to the client, he was saying in Flemish, I said, kleurspiegels. I mean, they are color mirrors, and it is so right. So the pictures of that building, from inside and outside, you never get the same color with the time passing. And another very funny thing, in an annex building for the servants of the castle at the time, we decided to make a guest house, and we left the old plaster, and to create a vapor barrier, because we were putting some insulation outside, we decided to use aluminum chocolate paper to cover the walls. So it has been a very inexpensive solution, solving and creating quite an interesting space inside at nearly no cost. This is another example at the University of Jean Blou. It was a barn of a farm, and they needed a new 600-seat auditorium. So we looked carefully at the geometry, and without removing any piece of wood of masonry, just by adding some steel elements and hanging those things, we were able to create this, I think, 700-seat auditorium within the existing structure, and by playing with plastic curved shields, transparent, to create a variable acoustic. So this auditorium is also used by modifying the shape of the panels as a magnificent concert hall. This is something that would interest you. This is typical social housing of the 60s in Brussels. And of course, due to EU regulation, the social housing company had to insulate them. So we were in charge of that, and we incorporated the terraces to insulate the building, and then created those cubicle terraces outside like living spaces. And it just happened, I don't think we have pictures of how people have incorporated those terraces in the living environment, but it is really, it became quite a success for as a social habitat. And again, we made the building on the left side too, and with a garden in between, creating in the center of Brussels quite a unique space. But again, geometry, 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 and technology with steel. I don't know how this thing is. Another thing, this is a famous building in Belgium. It's due to the EUROPA, the National Radio Broadcasting Building, which was abandoned by the radio, and it was in danger. And some bright people decided to buy it and to give a new life. So we were in charge of renovating, transforming the building, and in particular the studios, where there were just all the big components of the planet have been in that building. So there was a huge history, and so we transformed them, still keeping, to increase the capacity of seats. This was the, there's already the new configuration. But you see, we discovered there was a huge attic on the top of the building where we were able to put big lattice steel trusses, which just allow us to hang on the back of the room another 400 seats, and with lateral rows. So just for the joke, one day we were with the king and the queen for the inauguration, and the question was, where do we place the king and the queen? Not the king on one side and the queen on the other side. It has been a very funny discussion with the king at that time. So you see, and it is the Princess Elizabeth contest is happening in there since then. This is a typical evolution. This is in a poor part of Brussels. It was a kind of warehouse with slender cast iron steel columns, with weak steel beams, with bad wood floors. And we were able, and this is why, technology is magnificent. Computer science is magnificent. But it is like a weapon. It can be also very dangerous. So the mastering of software, the mastering of technology, the mastering of the physical properties of materials, all are fundamental for helping architecture and transformation. So in this case, our bright acoustician invented a system of ceilings that were hung to the wood structure with some springs, and on top of it, small springs, but stiffer, to support the floor. So without changing this old weak structure, just reinforcing some steel element, we were able to save the whole building, not modifying the foundation, and to make it in the luxurious apartment building. It was unbelievable to see the evolution of use of that building, which was deemed to be demolished. And on top of it, because there was a school close to it, we were able to add 50 students housing units, you see, integrated within the urban fabric. This is not the case, where, and about, on one side, the wisdom of Christoph Alexander, and on the other side, the megalomania, and I would be careful using my words, of Le Corbusier. Le Corbusier was a magnificent artist, but his theory about the modular has badly influenced a lot of people in opposition to what Alexander and Don Mondlane have done. And this is a good example of a Le Corbusier project with his 26 floor to ceiling height, which is of course unlivable. And so we made many trials to save that housing unit for students, but we were really unable to do it. And as a consequence, we had to rebuild next to the tower a new tower with, as you do, decent floor-to-ceiling height. And amazingly enough, the city of Kortrijk, it's along one of our main rivers, heard about the social housing and just show you. And so the mayor called and said, could you imagine something like that for this luxurious apartment tower? I say, oh, of course. And thanks to the mayor, we could convince the investor to make very large terraces, 2 floors height, and it was supposed to be bought by middle-income people, but as a conclusion, all the rich people having a big villa around the golf course a couple of kilometers decide to sell their big villa and to buy an apartment in the tower, which is a very amazing thing. And you see about colors, the facade is made of stainless steel panels, one mirror, one etched, and the other one white. And this is the 4 seasons of the tower. And this tower is now used in Kortrijk as an element as a weather forecasting element, because you never see the tower the same way. This is not continuity, it's a new building, but it's continuity was coming. It is one of the first really zero energy building. It's an office building for an administration, 10,000 square meter, fully in wood, on poles, above the ground, with this 100 chimneys making natural draft in the building. And it's a multifunctional building. You have a small school for small children, a carpentry, high-tech office, a archive library with precious documents, meeting rooms, people working, classrooms, some small shops. It's really a multifunctional building, and that's where OSA, I think, has put. And it's 100% in wood. And when I say wood, you see, of course, we have used plywood, but plywood is glue. When you think about a building in wood, you should make it in solid wood, in planks. And the best way to do it is to nail it, because nails are the best possible connection. You know, you better transfer tension forces by a lot of thin elements instead of one fat one, because the weight of the connecting element is very important. So when you have something in compression, you make preferably one big column instead of 10 small ones. And when you work in tension, you preferably use many small elements in tension instead of one element in tension. And this is in relation with all this choice of material and the wood connection. We have developed at the Brussels Free University Flemish side in our workshop with students a way to weave wood with para-aramide threads. And this is unbelievably sustainable, much better than steel nails. We have developed that, proved that at least 10 years ago, or 15 years ago, we have never been able to apply it. So the thing is, in building industry, there is a 25-year gap between something which is obvious and when it finally can be accepted by the society. And I think also, yes, I've used this slide. This the perforated steel sheet I was referring to. It's very simple. When you have a triangular set pattern of holes, you have the highest transparency and a fairly good structural stability, but the problem is that triangles are not squares. And then by discussing that, we discovered that we could do, if we have a square pattern of circles, if you put in the middle of them a smaller circle, you have the same transparency, but with the interest that you can bolt steps on it on a regular pattern. So this thing has become the standard in our practice because it's inexpensive and extremely efficient. And people say, okay, you have 95% of steel not used by making the holes, but this steel is reused at extremely low energy cost. So the energy balance is positive in it. And this is seen in the price, the cost price. The cost of those sheets are quite low. That means that the full life cycle is correct. And this is, I think I finished with this, Osa? No, some other product. This is a very old product about, I made it 40 years ago. It's a stupid shell to collect the seeds in the forest in southern Belgium. And we made it with planks. And very simply bolting planks together. And having at the base here planks of 8 centimeters by 16, joined then by two planks of 7 by 14, then joined by 3 planks of 6 by 12, and by 4 planks you see, that's the top. There you have, for one plank 8 by 16 at the base, you have 4 planks, 5 by 10 on the top. And then the next one, there's something very funny. When I say 25 years between an obvious solution and the acceptance, here it has been 50 years. I just discovered at MIT in '72, mind you, a shape for a dome. There's only one possible shape, which I call the isonode structure, in which the node of the triangles has only 1 degree of freedom. And this, of course, makes it very inexpensive to build. Well, I had to wait 50 years to build it. And this is now at the coast in Belgium. It's quite a popular gathering place. And by the way, it is a compromise, because this stainless steel part was planned also to be done in a small triangle. But again, they accepted, but at 90%. So we could have done it even better, but I'm already quite happy we could do it. And by the way, on public spaces, one problem for the maintenance department is the chewing gums which are on the ground. So as it is a rich area, I suggest to the mayor not to avoid chewing gums and to ask all the rich citizens to give their old money coins. And we had to discuss with the National Bank. So every black tile has 12 pieces of money collected from the neighbors. So we have 25,000 pieces of money in the black concrete elements of the floor. Now, we are defending the idea of high-rise construction. And we get a lot of opposition because high-rises are mainly built with a central core and with space surrounding looking outside. First, it is a very inefficient structural system because, of course, if you can make the bearing structure at the outside, it's much less expensive. And secondly, it is not at all a gathering space. So, for the first time, we have designed high-rises for 40s, but it is Chinese client, Dongao in Suzhou, that grasped it automatically, and we're still waiting to build it. But it's a vertical village with a lot of spaces. And what is funny, because you have, it's a subtropical climate, we have insects, so we had to make a mesh to protect mosquitoes to get in. And so the clients say, if mosquitoes cannot get in, butterflies cannot get out. So let's have butterflies within the building and birds. And the problem is, of course, that the birds love to eat the butterflies. And you have photovoltaic screens that turns around the building. So you have a lot of internal spaces. And piazza in the middle, every 10 floors. And again in China, and this is for Lviv a serious issue, the parking issue. The millions, the tens of millions of concrete underground square meters built on the planet for parking, hurting the environment, being unsafe, unhealthy, very expensive place, is crazy. So in Asia, automatic vertical parking is quite common. And we were able, it's in Suzhou, we were invited by Wang Shu to join him in a joint project. So we designed a huge coffee shop, which is the building you see on the image. But Wang Shu forgot the parking. So I told him, well, let's make a vertical parking. So this tower, and you see again, my friend Meurant made the color scheme. It's a parking tower for 60 cars. And in the meantime, it's a very utility building, and it is the biggest fish harbor in China. It is becoming the city tower. It's a parking. So also in the meantime, as you have seen, we are interested in trying to find inexpensive, because money is energy. So if we make an inexpensive windmill, we are more sustainable. And windmills, the classical windmills, as a huge default, it's a mast and bending, and they are depending on a huge concrete foundation with tens of piles, so hurting the environment. So windmills, in its construction, is totally unsustainable. They produce maybe green energy, but with something which is not at all green. And so Suez hired us years ago, and we have a world patent on that, to develop a new mast which reduced the cost, the global cost of a 1.2 megawatt wind turbine by 30%, and also that does not need any foundation, because you have only a steel plate under the mast and sandbags that counterweight the structure. So there has been, for many reasons, they have not, time is up, I will finish a couple of minutes more. In the meantime, we are now developing the same kind of system of cable for windmill with Darius rotor-rush windmill, and we're trying to convince our king to put them on the King's Palace. It would be the first monarchy on the planet that would have a sustainable symbol on this building. And that's finished now. This is a project Osaimi introduced Monday in Oman, in Muscat. And it's funny because we will invite a Islamic music composer with an Islamic painter to color the photovoltaic panels covering that multifunctional building, which is in the middle of and next to a shopping center, sport hall, whatever. Because in Muscat we are the Tropic of Cancer. That means that the sun is going east-west, plus minus 23 degrees. And that means that you get more solar energy vertical than on the roof. And it would be, so probably next week we'll be in Oman to discuss with the mayor of Oman. It would, you see, art producing energy, and art, Islamic art, and discussing with our acquisition, we are used to Beethoven and the pianoforte with 7 octaves. But Islamic music is more oriented on the quint and the ratio 3 to 2, 3 to 4, 3 to 4, again Pythagoras. So that's the next project to come. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Samyn. Thank you. Dear friends, maybe you have a question to Mr. Samyn. Yes, before my colleague come to you with microphone, I would ask the first question. Mr. Samyn, first of all, I'm very thankful to Mr. Vsevolod, the ambassador of Ukraine in the European Union, for helping us to invite you to this forum. And I think everybody is inspired by all the ideas and projects that...
Two things. First, listen to the client. What is his dream before his needs? What his wife, his kids, his family, even if he's a big boss, even if he's the prime minister, what as a human being he wants to create as a building. Because, you know, the real creator of a building is not the architect. We are only the work tool. The real creator. If a building is beautiful, we have to thank first the client, not the architect. We're just doing it. That's first thing. Listening, trying to understand. And some clients are very bright in explaining very clearly their vision, but that's quite rare because you need to have a lot of knowledge in construction to be able. So we very often have to assist the client. You speak about the EUROPA building. It was a unique case where the administration had prepared a crystal clear question. That's one side. And the other thing is, what is the site? Analyzing the site in details. You know, insects in the ground, butterflies flying, the wind speed, and you know, again, figures. The type of vegetation you have. Alexa, you know, you have seen, we have one oak in the building. It was in my ideas before meeting Christophe Alexander. But what
your sentence was so beautiful. This oak was born in 1976.
Yeah, exactly. You see, but the client and the site, and then it is just back and forth, no alternatives, just putting questions. And what we do is we put questions, and then we sort 1 or 2 or 3 possible answers. And then we weight the answer with the dream of the client and the site. And then you always find one which is the best compromise, intellectual, philosophical compromise. So every project is always a compromise. And it is always, it bears the stamp of the time it has been done.
Thank you, Mr. Samyn. It's a deep thoughts to think about. I think we had a few questions. I think this row, there was somebody wanting, yeah, please.
First of all, thank you for coming here. This means a lot. And my question is about the project of the social housing. It's twofold question. First is about what efforts beside insulation was made to raise the energy efficiency. Was the HVAC updated, etc.? And what was the eventual energy efficiency class of the building? What are the potential of those buildings as you studied during this project? And another, maybe just a small question, I don't need an elaborated answer for this, but what was the funding procedure behind the realization? Was it the government funding, or was it funding from the owners of the apartment, or was it the developers funding? Thanks.
So, I have a problem. Maybe I ask my wife to tell me short in French what you were asking, but I don't understand. No, maybe she can join us.
Можливо, можна включити слайд з житлом на екран.
I can repeat key moments if needed.
En fait, il t'a demandé quel était le...
So, you were referring to the social housing units in Brussels?
Yes, yes.
Well, extremely simple. You see, the discussion about insulating buildings, okay, it's, we have to do it, but it is not always the best solution. Anyway, in that case, we had to put 15 centimeter. And the issue is not really the nature or opinion, and it is not God's vision, is that whatever, you can use polyurethane or rock wool, preferably than glass wool, but the issue is how you protect it. For sure, we never use a solid material on top of a soft material. So to use thin stones to give the appearance of a stone building on insulation, that's something we forbid ourselves to do. So whenever, what we do, we clad building with corrugated steel sheet or with a classical Knauf glass fiber reinforcing, but our preference goes to corrugated steel sheet. The best environmental balance is to go with I see I was discussing with Anton about the zinc steel sheets you have on the roofs here. Now there is a nice scientific progress done about 10 years ago when adding some aluminum in the mixture, so zinc aluminum coating on steel sheets, thin steel sheets. You know, in Africa they use plates of 0.3 millimeter, while we are using sometimes 1.5 millimeter. 0.3 millimeter could also work in Europe, so why do we spend so much money? But then you have to accept the waves. When you want it flat, you see, that's a good example. If you are obsessed by image, you make a flat panel. Obviously, this flat panel is much more expensive and energy consuming than a corrugated steel sheet. If you go on the website, you will see a lot of projects where we're using corrugated steel sheet, but then the detail, like Isabelle was showing, you know, the importance of details in the construction details and the global vision of a building from the very initial point of the project. So we, fabric, steel sheets, soft things, flexible things, or soft material seems to us logic. Huh? But that's it. Huh? And also, you should relate that to the thermal inertia of the building, the amount of sun energy getting in or out, the choice, as Anton was saying, one of the questions is how do you achieve the dream of low energy? And then you think, okay, what is the point to make a very efficient insulated building if you're still depending on oil energy, huh? on network? Huh? And in Europe, with the dramatic war you're living, we now start to feel it, depending on Russian gas. That's not a good idea. Huh? So is it more important to make a good insulation or to put small windmills and photovoltaic panels on your building? Yeah? And we see, and that's evolving thanks, unfortunately, to this dramatic war, because your war is all war. Huh? We realize, there's no other point that Ukraine, Europe, has to be sure that Ukraine wins that war, because if not, the consequences will be unbelievable. But that's another issue. But you see, that all makes people, the client vision, the client dream, thanks to Ukraine, is changing, since 2 years. That's very interesting. Your drama is lived by all Europe and more, and that's good for everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Samyn.
Thanks a lot.
I think we will have a possibility to ask a question already in the hall.
Yeah?
Or we take one more. How do you say?
That's your disposal.
One more. There is young man.
First of all, I wanted to thank you for coming here and for your lecture. We really appreciate it. I think everyone in the hall appreciates it. And my question was on the design of your wind turbines. I wanted to ask, is there any big cons to the design that may push the buyer to build the more common design of the wind turbine?
Maybe you can make a little bit clearer your question. You mean if there is a simpler design? That's your question?
No, I mean is there any cons to the design?
That's part of our engagement, human engagement discussion with Anton. That's why Anton kindly invited us. Huh? You can use it. I can write you a letter, give you a free use, without patent fees or whatever. And by the way, what I think, what is very amazing in industry, we are working we are in close relation with a lot of craftsmen. We have a full respect for craftsmanship. And craftsmanship does not only mean to weave whisker baskets or to make potteries. Craftsmanship can be a company. The colored photovoltaic panels are done by a small Lithuanian company, and the workshop is 200 square meters. But they will be able to produce the product in Oman. So we're discussing with one company, but it's all patent, so we can decide to whom we grant authorization. It's free of charge. But to build a small windmill there, the amount of steel, we have demonstrated theoretically. You can imagine that if Group Suez has paid us so much money to make that it is feasible and interesting financially. So, but this evolution with this Darius Rotorash, no noise, low speed, no killing birds. You can put them on any roof in Kiev. But let's create a workshop, a small entrepreneur from Lviv, who knows how to weld steel. it's really free. We'd be delighted to help any company to go further into design. And it's really very low cost.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Samyn, for your generosity and support for us. Thank you.